Give it up for Leigh.
Gosh, isn't it incredible to hear people's stories, right? You know, sorry, 1 second, I forgot something. I'm going to ask all of you to buy into me a little bit today, because I usually put a lot of effort into a flashy presentation. Lately, I've been taking some risks, and I've been even rapping, singing on stage, doing live demos, making jokes, breaking stuff. That's what we all love, right? It's almost like there's this fascination when we do the work of gluing all of this stuff together. And it's this fascination, this very peculiar thing that's funny and interesting. It's something that we all know. It's the pain. It's the experience that we have when we sit down at a new place trying to figure out who's around here that I'm supposed to work with. What are we trying to accomplish? The nature of my job is that I'm supposed to pick up some pieces, put some things together, turn some knobs, build something new, change the way that something works, or maybe even just keep a system the same amidst a world that's always changing and battering and like swiping out the rug from underneath it. How do you keep a system running when everything around it is always just like totally antagonistic to that purpose, right? And this obsession with this pain led me to a question, right? How do we keep going? How do we move forward and produce, be productive when we feel this pain amongst the people that we become fond of, the people that we call our teammates? And in this past day, we've been talking a lot about what it means for us to double down on our community and to reconnect with each other. We had a little open space back here in the corner at the end of the open space sessions about how to reboot the hosting meetup for the reason this conference kind of exists, is Denver Devops. It's been a little bit since I've been able to come to a random Tuesday night and meet up with all of you and share about the stories and the pain that we felt. And then I met somebody new to the community yesterday. And I'm like, oh, this person doesn't even know what we're about. And I thought, man, I gotta throw out the flashy stuff. And I gotta take a risk that I've seen other speakers that I really respect take a risk in. I don't need slides to tell a story. I don't need anything flashy or entertaining to connect with you all. In fact, we used to do that every month, casually. Hey, how are things going for you over at Splunk? Yeah, I got this thing that I was working on in production. And so I want to take a moment to actually share a little bit about where I'm coming from and what this community did for me. And I'm still going to talk about the idea and the thing that I became so obsessed with that led to this proposal, but with a little bit more vulnerability. So please buy into me. Can we do that, please? Yeah, thanks. So it all started when I was born. I'm glad I landed. I'm almost not joking, though. So when I was in my mom's womb, there is this blood vessel in your eye. Biology is super interesting. It's supposed to detach. It is a blood vessel that feeds the growth of this beautiful organ that influences everything that a lot of us, at least, if you can see, right? We experience our whole world through. And in my right eye, this blood vessel became a cataract. It's very good at growing, right? And so it just wanted to take over the entire thing. Now, that's kind of unlucky, but something lucky happened to me. I was born at UCLA. which is a researching hospital. And some people who are incentivized by our academic system that's very cutthroat here in the US were like, we should go and take a look at this kid. And 3 months later, some hand of God surgeon got in there. His name is Dr. Deemer, Dr. Weissman. They got in there, and they opened up an infant's eye, and they took out the thing that focuses the light, the thing that helps you make sense and actuate. And like, I want to see close things. I want to see far things. Right? So I don't have a lens that my own body grew in this eye. It's been pretty much that way ever since I was 3 months old. But I'm lucky, because with a research hospital comes research grants, and also if your parents work there, like in my case, both of my parents worked at UCLA, you got pretty good insurance, all of the stuff's stacking up. So even though you might be a Filipino immigrant, second generation, you don't really got the money for like first-class healthcare. The surgeons, the occupational therapists, the optics specialists, the people who are able to put a piece of glass in your eye that's thicker than normal so that they can compensate for missing optics that your biology is supposed to provide. There's all these people that have come before me, hundreds of years of medical research, and I got to benefit from that social safety net and those systems. And some people all throughout history made some really smart decisions, and I can see. In fact, when I was 14, I even had an implant put in. It was a medical trial, and it seems to have worked out, because I don't have to have glasses, and I can still see all you guys if I do this. Now, why am I telling you this? It is very hard to get an infant to look through one eye. And when you are born with an eye that doesn't focus any light, your brain does not even consider that a tool in its mechanism. It's not even going to use that as part of the system. You don't even develop neurologically the same way as everyone else. So you got to patch. You got to force the system to take a different input. And God bless my mom and my dad for making me do that, because as soon as you're not looking, that's going on with no. Now, the doctors say, you also got to work on this kid's hand-eye coordination, or else they're going to be a klutz for the rest of their life. And that's how I started playing with blocks. That's where the Legos came in. That's where the color and the instructions, I started playing with blocks. So I remember the first time that I took the bus by myself. I was in about 4th grade. Weird enough, I was taking a bus to a private school. Filipino people are very Catholic, so you got to keep up with everybody else around you in your own social circle. But my grandma would just take me to the bus every day because we didn't really have a car. More than that is like, my grandma lives in my house because she's kind of my caretaker. My mom's got a major 2-hour commute on some other buses to UCLA to go do her job, pay the bills. She's going to get back at about 8:30 tonight. But when I could start taking the bus on my own, it's because somebody was alongside me, and they showed me that skill set, and they helped me trust the system. Right? I started learning the people, I learned the routes, I learned what I could and couldn't do, and there was a little bit of social trust. They're like, okay, well, if people are going to take care of this kid, if you got to go and take the bus because, the living situation is just not working out, we're in this random studio apartment, then the constraints are just going to lead to the solution. So I'm growing up, 9, 10. Interest in Legos turns into puzzles, but I still love playing with blocks, right? And I start getting a little bit more interested in school. My family can't afford the whole private school keeping up with the Joneses thing anymore, except the Filipino Catholic version, not the white person's version. Algebra is starting to be really useful to me at the grocery store. Now, I'm starting to take an interest in maths, and it's very clear that technology is super fun. Don't we all love playing video games? My uncle has somehow got a nice cushy IT job at a hospital. And for my birthday, he gifts me a Dell Latitude D410. It's a single-core, 12-inch portable business laptop, decommissioned from hospital gear. It's running a Pentium M 725 at 1.6 gigahertz. 80 gigabytes of storage on that hard drive, spinning Rust, good stuff, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, I have a computer in my hands. I don't care that it's decommissioned business gear. Like, this thing is slow, it is hot, but it is mine. I can pirate all of the music on LimeWire that I want. Yeah. Now, let me paint a picture for you for a second. You know when you boot up Windows XP, and you got that green title bar, and the beautiful rolling hills behind it? That picture is called Bliss. It was sold to Microsoft by somebody who took that photo on a film camera. Somehow it ended up in pixels, and now it's decorating the bliss of the Windows XP experience. Well, I was super into art, and I did a lot of drawing, and I got this new machine, and I was like, dude, this isn't my vibe. There's all this bright green and stuff. I need like a little bit darker. Like I want it to be cool, like techno. And I do some searching around, and I'm like, can you theme Windows? And the answer is yes, if you change a bunch of like registry files and assets all around the operating system. I mean, Windows has a built-in theming engine to it, but it's not meant to be fully changed unless you buy this proprietary software by Starwinds called Window Blinds. And I'm like, the people who are building themes for this thing, it looks amazing. But the software is $45. And I'm like, I am 11 years old. I don't have $45. This is how I pirated my first software. Where did I learn that that was possible? A, LimeWire, and B, my uncle may have taught me the importance of an antivirus system, and I think he installed McAfee, but it was definitely a cracked version. We didn't pay for that, so, you know. Now, I got my computer. I'm running some theme that I got off some user forum. That was back before social networks were a thing, right? Anyone remember those good days? But I'm starting to pick up a little bit of a skill set and some opinions. When I use a computer, I want it to work this way. I'm going to run Windows. I want it to look this way. I want my icons to be like this. I want these programs installed so I can work on my art. And it's got to have a cracked antivirus, Bitdefender right there, you know? About a year later, we are living in a new studio. It's a couple of blocks away from where I used to live. My walk is not that bad. I'm skating to school all the time. And a package shows up at our door. I'm at dance practice. You know, I'm on this dance team at high school. I get home, and my mom is looking at me all giddy. She says, Leigh, I have a surprise for you. And it is this fancy 2-in-1 laptop. Keep in mind, this is like 2008 or something. So stuff with touchscreens in a laptop, this is innovative. It twists, and it folds, and it's got multi-touch. It's covered in this like weird like 2000s era like graphic that swirls across the entire plastic of the laptop. It's cheesy and thick. And I'm like, Mom, where'd you get this? She's like, it showed up at our door. I think it was the person who lived here before. Like they RMA'd it or they got some repair. And I'm like, can we really keep it? And she's just like, I don't care. You deserve this laptop. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna get to playing. I'm reinstalling Windows. The thing is password protected and everything, but I threw in an installer USB, wiped that shit clean, and then, you know, now I'm getting started. I'm doing my thing. This is my new laptop. This is not your laptop, Leigh. But I don't know that. Someone just gave it to me. Now, the police come. And my mom's like, the police are here, right? This is like the next day. And she goes and she hides the laptop in between the mattresses in the closet where she sleeps. Now, This is not my mom's first interaction with the police, but it's probably one of the most unpleasant that I remember. And at some point, without a warrant, they sort of force and coerce their way into the place, and they're tearing stuff apart. And I know that we've committed a crime. I mean, I'm 12, but this is wrong. And I'm terrified that they're gonna take her away. And they don't find it. But a few hours later, they come back and they do arrest her. I don't know on what grounds necessarily. Police gonna do police things. Honestly, they had the right hunch. I ran to my buddy's house, told him roughly about the situation and that I was scared that they were gonna get a warrant and they were gonna find that thing. And we snuck through the alleyways back, and we knew all this place so well. We'd running around doing all sorts of mischief. Use my key, get into the place. I'm like ninjaing that thing out, sneaking around. I throw it in the bag. We're like going through the bushes. Like, we don't want to be on the streets. We don't want to be caught. And we get that thing out of there. Eventually, I think a few $1,000s in court bills and stuff. There's no evidence. And my mom got off clean, and I have a new laptop. Yeah. So I think you can probably tell, right? Money's getting kind of tough. We don't have a bedroom in our place. My grandma lives with me. We're stealing other people's stuff because it just shows up at our door. I guess that's a weird opportunity. And sometimes we don't have internet. So this is how I discovered Ubuntu. It's because back then, a lot of people were still using WEP encryption to protect your Wi-Fi. Well, if you're a kid trying to do their calculus homework or something, sorry, that was egotistical. It was geometry. Then the internet helps, right? And then also, like, sometimes you just want to play video games or hop on IRC or something. So I'm not trying to be malicious here. This is something I wouldn't find myself doing today, but it takes like 8 minutes to crack a web password on a Pentium M. AMD Turion X2, so it's a dual core. But that's how I hacked my first Wi-Fi network. Now, my Xbox 360 that I convinced my dad to buy me for Christmas, and then I brought it to my mom's house where I spend all my time, it didn't have a wireless card because it was the basic unit. But I'm looking at my laptop thinking, man, that thing has got an Ethernet port on it, or it's an Ethernet port, and it has a Wi-Fi card, and it has a computer in it. I don't know what that is really, but could you take the internet from the wireless part and shoot it out the Ethernet port? That's how I figured out how to bridge my first wireless network. You see, I have no formal training in any of this stuff. I'm 12. But this is starting to sound like a problem-solving skill set that all of us are familiar with. You got constraints. There might be some resources somewhere else. There might be a few tools that you could imagine might help you solve that problem. And then if you do enough research, you get to the place where you can assemble those tools together, build something weird, and you don't have that problem anymore, at least for the moment. Now, eventually in my home life, it's just getting really unstable. The only organized thing in my life is this 120-person dance team, which is, a little bit unique. I eventually make the decision that my dad moved to Colorado a year ago. I can't do this anymore. There's just too many close calls with my mom, and I don't feel safe. I gotta move in with my dad. So I left my Filipino heritage, all my family, my dance team, to go do something new. And this is when something lucky happens to me again. We're sitting at Cherry Creek High School. My dad's got us into this nice school district because he has this place with the new person that he married and stuff. And I'm sitting with the guidance counselor picking an elective. And she's like, here's some things you should do. And I'm like, what's that class? Computer Science 101. She says, oh, there's like 6 kids in that course. It's a new thing that people are trying out. We're already 15 days into the semester, so I don't know if you would, I want to do that. Take me to that. That has the computers. Those things, you can pretty much teach them to do anything. I want to learn how to tell them what to do. And I get in this class, and I walk in the door, in this experience that feels very white to me. I mean, everyone is white at this school. And the teacher is an Asian American, a young Asian American woman. And I'm like, oh, I feel a little safe again. And this place becomes my home. And we learn how to build software. We start building clubs. I run out of curriculum, so I start helping teaching. Right? I'm excited. I get to learn how to tell the computer what to do. I get to be fascinated. I get to use maths. It doesn't even matter if I'm doing bad in the rest of my courses. Now, my best friend, Josh Graham, he was a year older than me in the comp sci program. We started some clubs together, built some community. He's starting to get to the point where he's going away. He's going to be going to college. Now, Josh's senior year of high school, he met somebody in the hallway and convinced them that he should work with them. Now, Josh and I have a very similar skill set, and I'm thinking to myself, Josh, you got a job? Like, you're going to get paid to refactor iOS applications on your Mac? And he's like, yeah, let me see how it goes. A year goes by, he's graduating, he's working with Deloitte Digital now. Second job, $65K. Doesn't even have a high school degree yet. The dude buys me a Mac. I'm like, who does that? Like, now, Josh does. He lives in a house with 3 bedrooms. Right? I love going over that place. They treat me so well. At some point, I'm doing the community college thing, or well, it's a university, here at Metro State. And I get fired from checking at Target. I'm just like an unreliable kind of person, you know. I'm overbooked doing all kinds of things. I get fired from the financial aid office. Somehow I convinced DirecTV to hire me. And I remember what it was like that first week working with my mentor. We were jumping in to this Perl code base. It's using a web framework that he has written himself. I mean, like, it's Perl templating HTTP calls inside of there. I've never touched this language in my life. I know Java. But he's showing me around, and I'm like, I think I can make some sense of this. And we have this problem coming up. Oh, man, this will maybe resonate with some of you. You know how when spring comes, we have to change the clocks? Well, there's this application that my manager and my mentor wrote. We work in an IT ops organization, so this is not necessarily professional software engineering with high regulation and stuff. Josh is writing web apps, soloing it in Perl, FTPing it to a server. This is who I'm learning from. But he's written this thing called ComHub. It's an incident command center application. We use it in our network operations center. And in ComHub, when an incident happens, the techs at the call center, they log in, they put some times, they're like, this person called me, they're reporting application errors increasing with C3, customers are not able to watch their video streams, they're not able to purchase movies, whatever. The incident starts forming, right? And everything has a timestamp. But ComHub hasn't been around for very long, and we don't have daylight savings time implemented. So Josh is like, hey, does that make sense to you? Can we go find some of the places in the code where we got to figure this problem out? Now, all of the times in the database are stored in local time. And I look at Josh and I'm like, so if I'm understanding the problem correctly, we got to figure out like what date it is and then add an hour depending on what that date is, and then sometimes we don't do that? And he's like, yeah. Now I know any cell phone, any computer, you gotta configure the time zone, right? And it knows the time internally. There's only one number for that, right? Now, from a theory standpoint, I learned that's called UTC. And then we add offsets. But the true time never changes. Now, if you store a date string in a MySQL table, but it's time zone encoded, that's actually lossy. And I'm like, Josh, there's actually no way for us to know in this very specific edge case if it's the hour from this day or this day, because there's no way to correct for that. And he's like, well, we have two options. We can either really re-architect the app so that it's using everything on UTC, and then we're going to have to do a database migration, or we can ignore that. Which one do you think that we did? Right? I don't even know what I'm doing. I barely know Perl. I don't know how to dereference whatever variable. This was the first time that I touched the real system. And because of all the decisions that came before me, we had to make a choice that was suboptimal. Really, in reality, the software is wrong. The thing that it's going to do in that moment is not going to be reliable. If an incident happens on March 15th or whenever it's supposed to be, that daylight saving times occurs, then the time calculation is going to lose information during an incident. But the reality is that's probably not going to happen. And if we ship this, then the rest of the year, the application is going to work probably just fine until we got to roll back the clock again for the other season. And then we just can ignore that again. And if the tool fails, people are smart, right? Like, people are resilient. They'll figure it out. Hopefully that timestamp is never a load-bearing issue and it doesn't cause pain. Now, I know that ComHub was used for many, 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 many years after I left. And that code is still sitting there. And I wonder to this day, in the moments and the constraints that we had to make that decision, we traded off pain for the future. But we also made the tool useful for everyone. We left the garden a little bit better than we found it. We left a useful tool in the workshop. And Josh and I were just playing with blocks. Really. We weren't doing anything formal. We did it because it was fun. And we just wanted to provide a tool that would make network operations just a little bit better. Now, I got to wrap this up. And the most important thing that happened that week to me was that I received a paycheck. And that paycheck, it was 3 times bigger than any time I'd ever been paid before in an entire month. And I thought to myself, this is going to change the way that I live. This kind of problem solving, the kinds of opportunities that are available to me, I'm going to be able to send money back home. I'm going to be able to connect. I'm going to be able to build new things with new people. That job would lead into me building a compute platform with some of the people that are actually here right now. It would lead to speaking and participating and volunteering and meetups. It would lead to the first talks that I gave here on pretty much this stage spiritually. I remember the experience of what it was like to be around all of you folks. I remember the pay talk that made me realize, man, I'm working with containers now. I'm not being paid enough at this place. I've been here for 3 years, man. They keep giving me raises, but there ain't no way that they're going to pay me 2.5 times what I'm making. I remember how it led to a conversation for me asking for more than double what I was making, and the person saying yes, and me being like, dang, I didn't ask for enough. My point here is that we all got our own story. You heard Leon's. We all have our own way of learning to see the world. A lot of us, I think, share that childlike joy of playing with blocks. And so, in our work, when we find ways to be nice to and play with each other, whether we're just making a mess on the floor or actually trying to make a nice path to the garden where people are productive with each other, that the pain that we feel and the decisions we make and the promises of pain that we leave for the people who follow us is what can remind us about that surprising key indicator from the Dorometrics report that Dave was talking about yesterday, which is that teams of people who are focused and who recognize that we can always leave our environment and that we can always work a little bit better with each other are going to perform better. We're going to have a better time. And why do we do that? It's because DevOps days and DevOps itself, just like hacking, just like open source, is political, and not in the dramatic way, but in the way that matters to each and every one of us' personal experience. In the way that changes not just the way that we work, not just the way that we treat each other, not just the way that we problem solve, work through awkward decisions, build weird systems, and get to solutions that alleviate problems for the moment, but in the way that we live our lives, in the things that incentivize us, and the other things that we value, and in the paycheck, in the wallet. But one of the places where it probably matters most in a capitalistic society like the ones that we participate in. I have a lot more stories. I know you do too. I would love to take some time, maybe later today, to speak about them. Maybe we could do that story time again. But for now, I'm just so grateful to be here again with a community of folks that make me feel accepted, make me feel like I can be better, and build a better system for tomorrow for all of the touch points that we have today. So thank you so much for giving me 30 minutes of your listening ears and listening to me be vulnerable. And I'd love to hear your story too. My name's Leigh Capili. I'm a developer advocate with VMware. And yeah, I live here. So let's make this place our home. I'd love to see more of this stuff happening. Cheers, friends.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Leigh. Really appreciate that. Wow, that makes me feel good. It's hard. I really appreciate all the, love that makes me feel for this community. So